Today I fucked up by telling my kid to throat punch his bully at school. Actual fuck up happened yesterday at the dinner table after school. After effects of my fuck up have me currently at the ER getting my son checked out for anaphylactic shock. Yesterday, my kid came home and was obviously upset. So I asked him what was wrong. He's 8 so he still talks to me about this stuff. He proceeds to tell me that at lunch, another kid in his class is bullying him about his peanut allergy, saying that he's faking his allergy and that he's gonna wipe some peanut butter on him to prove that he is faking. My kid says to him that he isn't faking and that could die just from touching peanut butter. Other kids said he didn't care and that he wanted him to die anyway. At this point my kid said that he told the teacher and the lunchroom monitor who both know about his allergy and they were able to intervene yesterday. I had a long talk with my kid about doing the right thing and telling the teacher and not letting this other kid make him lash out. Then we talked about the hard part. Now, I'm sure I'm gonna generate some hate with some people here with what I told him next and that's fine. We are allowed to have differing opinions but I'm not apologizing to anyone for teaching my kid to stand up and defend himself. After we talked about doing the right thing, and doing everything you can do to avoid a bad situation, I told him that sometimes you have to do the wrong thing to protect yourself and that should always be the absolute last resort. When he asked what I meant, I told him that as long as the bully is only taunting him with words then he should always walk away, but if he ever did try to put peanut butter on you then you hit him as hard as you can with the side of your hand in the throat, kind like a throat chop. Then you stop unless the bully keeps trying. Fast forward to this very afternoon and I get a call from the principal of the school saying that my son assaulted another student and needed to be picked up. I asked what happened and of course they won't talk about it over the phone but I smiled a little bit because I already knew. I get to school and I see my kid sitting in the office, tears streaming down his face. So I walk in and the principal tries talking to me but I blow right past her and ask my kid what happened. He says the bully had peanut butter on his fingers and he was threatening to wipe it on his face. Then my kid said that he did what I told him to do and hit the bully in the throat because he wiped peanut butter on his arm. I looked at his arm that was pretty swollen up, and asked him if he was having trouble breathing. Kid said he was fine, just a little shaky. At this point the principal interrupts with her, "Mr. So-and-so. We can't just have kids hitting other children just because they had a little peanut butter wiped on them. Kids do this kind of thing, we are gonna have to suspend him for a few days." It's obvious to me that the principal is clueless about the peanut allergy, so I cut her off and asked my kid if he told the bully to stop before he hit the other kid. He said yes. I yelled at him several times that I'm allergic to peanut butter and told him to stop, and he just kept acting like he was gonna wipe it on me. Now the principal has a shocked look on her face. I asked to see the video from the cafeteria and sure as shit my kid can be seen and heard screaming and trying to back away from his bully. At the point where it looks like the bully grabs my kid's arm, my kid yells at the top of his little lungs, "I told you to stop." Then he grabs the bully by the arm, pulls him towards himself and executes the best clothesline I've ever seen anyone do and floors this kid. Then my kid sits down and starts crying in the middle of the cafeteria. At this point I tell the principal that if my kid isn't allowed back at school tomorrow I was consulting with a lawyer about the attempted murder of my son. I also said that assuming he didn't have any other ill effects from this I would be fine not pressing charges against the school and the bully since it looks like he may have already learned his lesson. Since I didn't get a response and it's been about half an hour since the peanut butter was wiped on my kid's arm, I picked him up and left to take him to the ER to get checked out. About 10 minutes ago I got a phone call from the school board superintendent saying that the school board has decided to let my kid come back to school tomorrow. My kid has a clean bill of health from the hospital. The swelling is starting to go down after some epinephrine. After this whole thing, I went and got him cookies and cream-flavored ice cream. Before the day was over, I received an invite to a meeting with the school board on Thursday afternoon. I will update you on how that goes afterwards. Update. I just left the meeting, which wasn't with the school board as I was led to believe on the phone. The meeting was actually with the principal and a legal representative from the school board. I had a lawyer with me prior to this meeting and we discussed what I wanted out of it. My main concerns were making sure that there was a procedure in place to keep allergens away from my child and ensuring that the bully has no ability to assault my child again. I also wanted to know how it was that the principal wasn't informed or aware of my child's allergy prior to trying to tell me that he was going to be suspended. Lawyers talked legal stuff for a little bit while the principal and I listened. Eventually my turn to talk came and I simply explained the points mentioned above. I also asked why the principal didn't take the time to assess the whole situation. The explanation I got was that she was told by the cafeteria monitor that it was almond butter not peanut butter, so she really didn't look further into it. I can understand her point, but it doesn't make things any better from my perspective. So cut and dry stuff first. The bully child has been moved to a different school. Unfortunately, I don't have any legal recourse to find out which school he has been moved to and frankly don't care. Cafeteria monitor has been fired. I didn't hear this at the meeting, but my son's teacher called last night after school and told me. I asked why and I was told that she was distracted by her phone when all of the commotion started, which explains why this was allowed to progress in the first place. Based on the recommendation of a friend and many of you via PM, I requested, and was accommodated with, an allergy-free table at our school, where children with known allergies will eat lunch at and anyone who eats with them will have their lunches inspected by a teacher and a monitor to ensure no allergens are present. Now the weird stuff. The kid probably did wipe almond butter on my son. The kid's parent found out through a mutual friend where we lived and showed up at my house last night. The bully kid was very apologetic to me and asked if he could apologize to my son, which I said yes to. I invited the parents and kid into the living room and this child started crying and said he didn't mean to hurt my son. My son started crying as well and said he didn't want to hit him and he apologized as well. Then the parents asked the bully child to explain what happened. So apparently this kid likes peanut butter and almond butter, and has almond butter on a sandwich and little pack of peanut butter in his lunch for crackers. Bully child thought it would be funny to continue the tormenting from the previous day by putting peanut butter on my son. So he put a little bit of almond butter on his fingers to make him think it was peanut butter. I can only guess that there was a little peanut residue left on the bully's hands when he grabbed my son, which explains the subdued swelling reaction. I asked the kid if he knew what a peanut allergy actually does to a person, which to the other parents' credit, they had actually made him read WebMD about it. He explained the whole inability to breathe and some other things his mind held on to. So I took the opportunity to show this young man the EpiPen needle that you have to stick a person within an anaphylactic shock scenario. Then I gave him the trainer unit and showed him where it goes and how to press the button. When the button clicked, I think he jumped about 15 feet in the air and he was obviously scared. Parents apologized again, as did the bully kid. I told all of them that I was satisfied that a lesson was learned here and I wouldn't be pursuing any additional charges against the kid or his parents. As the parents and bully kid are leaving, my son runs right past us all and gives the bully a hug and tells him that he hopes he isn't in too much trouble. I was asked to sign a non-disclosure agreement, which I of course declined. I want my options open to me in case something like this happens again. Until that happens, I'm letting this die. Top comments.
There was a post on r/parenting earlier today from a dad whose daughter had been severely bullied by most of her classmates, including repeated suggestions the child, who was 9 years old, off herself. Dad wanted to know if he should override his daughter's wishes by engaging the school resource officer. Many of the parents who responded pointed out that bullies are going to continue bullying until they face consequences. Frankly, a side chop to the throat seems like a pretty decent consequence.
Yep. My bullies didn't stop with the physical torment until I turned and punched one of them in the gut. Just ignore them and they'll stop is one of the most asinine pieces of advice ever, closely followed by the much less common, tell them they're not being nice.
I try to explain this to my wife. I was the kid who did what my parents said, just ignore them or don't react because that's what they want. No, they wanted to torment and beat the shit out of me every day. From 4th grade until 8th grade I took it. One day in 8th, though, 2 kids took my book bag from me and headed towards the bathroom to put it in the toilet, and I snapped. Everything came out and I started kicking the shit out of both of them. When one tried to hit me, I grabbed his arm and swung around in circles with him until I swung him into the wall, then right back to kicking. The little old lady computer teacher had to come out and pull me off of them. They never, ever bothered me again. Some kids are just mean. And without the fear of getting the shit kicked out of them, they will continue to hurt and torture those they consider weaker.
It's all fun and games until the victim decides to swing back. It reminds me of a concept I heard from child abuse victims. Especially male child abuse victims. The last time they beat me. It basically revolves around the idea that beating children is an easy control tactic for abusive parents. But eventually, the child will grow up. And then once they are bigger and stronger than their abuser, they have a pivotal moment where they realize they aren't so weak that they have to take it anymore. And then they have the moment where they hit their abuser back. Usually very brutally. And then the dynamic instantly switches from small child who is always beaten by their parent to smaller adult trying to punch up at their victim. The last time they beat me usually ends up being a crossroads moment, where the grown child chooses between trying to leave or continuing to accept the verbal and emotional aspect of the abuse. But with the abuser understanding that for the first time, the grown child has a boundary that can't be crossed. And it's sometimes the first time the child feels any kind of empowerment in their situation. It's fascinating though from a non-domestic point of view. For the parent-child abuse, the parent tensely tries to maintain control emotionally. But for a school bully situation, they're forced to give up and acknowledge they aren't as powerful as they thought.